I was on a great album that Tom Jones did in Nashville. The song Darling was on that album, but I cannot remember one thing about the session. I'm so sorry, Tom, but you probably don't remember me.
For nearly 60 years, Jimmy Capps walked quietly onto the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, took his place beneath the lights, and disappeared into the background. Night after night, more than 3,000 performances unfolded while his name was never shouted, never celebrated, never carried by the applause he helped create. He stood just steps behind legends, shaping the sound of country music while remaining unseen. He listened, observed, and carried the weight of countless stories, yet he never spoke them aloud. He never chose favorites. He never told the world what it truly felt like to live in the shadows of greatness. Then in 2020, just before his passing, something inside Jimmy Capps changed. The man who had spent a lifetime listening finally spoke with quiet honesty. No bitterness, no regret, just truth. For the first time, he revealed the 5 Grand Ole Opry artists who didn't just impress him, but changed him forever, leaving him shaken, humbled, and rethinking everything he believed about music and fame. These names weren't chosen lightly, and the reasons behind them carry an emotional weight that still lingers long after the lights go out. When Jimmy Capps was asked who meant the most to him, his answer came without hesitation. Dolly Parton stood above all others, not because of her fame, beauty, or cultural power, but because of something far rarer. To the world, Dolly Parton was rhinestones, laughter, and unstoppable confidence. To Jimmy Capps, standing behind her on the Grand Ole Opry stage, she was authority without arrogance and power without cruelty. He once said she wasn't just beautiful, she was sexy in her confidence. A statement that startled people because it had nothing to do with appearance. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, when Dolly Parton was still fighting for her place in Nashville, Jimmy Capps was already part of the unseen backbone of the Opry House Band. He played behind her on defining songs like Jolene and Coat of Many Colors, watching things most audiences never noticed. While fans stared at her, Jimmy Capps watched her eyes. She turned toward the band, she nodded cues, she smiled mid-song. She made sure the musicians felt seen. That behavior was almost unheard of. Most stars never turned around. Most never acknowledged the people carrying their sound. Dolly Parton always did. For a man who spent his life in the shadows, those moments never faded. To Jimmy Capps, she embodied the Grand Ole Opry at its very best, proving that reaching the top didn't require stepping on anyone below. The second artist on his list was George Jones, a choice that startled many because admiration, in this case, came with fear. Standing behind George Jones was never predictable. Jimmy Capps never knew which version of him would walk under the opera lights. Some nights he appeared fragile, visibly worn down, holding himself together one breath at a time. Other nights he was a force of nature, his voice cutting through the room with terrifying clarity. That unpredictability kept Jimmy Capps alert in a way no polished performer ever could. He once said that when George Jones sang, it wasn't just singing, it was a soul coming out.
George Jones didn't interpret songs, he reopened wounds. Every divorce, every relapse, every regret lived inside his voice, and Jimmy Capps heard it before the audience ever did. When He Stopped Loving Her Today filled the room, Jimmy Capps felt it physically, not as emotion, but as pressure in his chest and hands. George Jones wasn't presenting heartbreak as drama, he was surviving it in real time. That truth forced Jimmy Capps to change how he played. He stopped decorating songs and started listening for fractures. When the voice weakened, he softened. When the fire returned, he sharpened his rhythm. George Jones taught him that country music didn't need perfection to be sacred. It needed honesty. By the time Alan Jackson entered the picture, Jimmy Capps was quietly worried. He had watched country music chase trends, cycle through pop experiments, polished images, and disposable hits. After decades at the Grand Ole Opry, he feared something essential was slipping away. Then Alan Jackson stepped onto the stage. There was no spectacle, no showmanship, just calm confidence and respect for tradition. Songs like Here in the Real World and Chasing That Neon Rainbow sounded like reminders rather than reinventions, grounded in ordinary lives, quiet disappointments, and personal pride. What moved Jimmy Capps most wasn't just the music, but the behavior that followed success. Even at the height of his fame in the 1990s, Alan Jackson still turned around mid-performance to acknowledge the Opry House Band. He smiled at Jimmy Capps, thanked the musicians openly, and treated them as equals. In an industry where success often created distance, Alan Jackson remained grounded. Jimmy Capps once said that Alan proved the roots were still alive, a statement that carried quiet relief. The fourth name on Jimmy Capps' list was Vince Gill, a man who reshaped his understanding of greatness. Some artists earned admiration through power or legacy, but Vince Gill earned it through humility. From their earliest nights together at the Opry, Vince Gill moved like someone who belonged to a team, not a star protecting an image. After shows, while applause still lingered, he talked about the band instead of himself. Jimmy Capps had spent most of his life invisible to audiences, measured by precision rather than praise. Vince Gill noticed him anyway. He listened differently, paying attention to tone, space, and silence. Over time, Jimmy Capps realized that humility didn't shrink talent, it amplified it. Vince Gill taught him that kindness wasn't weakness and that character could survive success. The final name on the list was Charlie Daniels, a choice driven by pure intensity. Every time Charlie Daniels stepped onto the Opry stage, the room changed temperature. Playing behind him meant reacting in real time, reading sudden shifts, and matching energy or being swallowed by it. When The Devil Went Down to Georgia exploded into motion, it stopped being a song and became a confrontation. Fiddle lines sparked, rhythms surged, and Jimmy Capps had to fight to keep up. That danger thrilled him. Charlie Daniels reminded him why he picked up a guitar in the first place, because music was meant to feel alive and risky. Offstage, Charlie Daniels carried deep respect for the Grand Ole Opry and its musicians. He treated Jimmy Capps as a partner, not a backdrop. They shared stories, laughter, and mutual respect. Charlie Daniels taught him that passion wasn't decorative, it was sustaining. Jimmy Capps never chased the spotlight, but he honored those who earned it. His words were spoken in truth, not fame. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more untold music stories. Thanks for watching.